Is it better now? Yes, perfect. Yeah. Uh, yes. So, blur again. Okay. Seems to be. Okay, I think I'll just stop the recording. Check this. Is this better? Yes, perfect. So, yeah, where was I? Yeah, so that is how I started my teaching career. Then I did my foundation. I prepared for my foundation law batch, and then the journey started. And now I'm teaching Say Final Audit. So that's about me. Before we go ahead into the topics, I'll give you a quick overview of what is the kind of topics that are there, what is the weightage, and how the marks are allotted in the examination. Okay, so you have around 19 chapters. It's quite vast as compared to your inter audit. And in this 19 chapters, there are some chapters where there are standards, there are certain chapters where there are no standards involved. Okay, so if you see the first 11 chapters that you have, I'll give you the textbook has been dispatched, or I think it's getting dispatched tomorrow. So the textbooks will reach you in 2 to 3 days time. And the so you can start marking there. I'm hoping you're sitting with a notebook and some pens so that we can write down whenever I tell you to. So here, the first 11 chapters are basically standard based chapters. So here you will have your standards, and the other chapters are something where there are no standards involved. Correct? So apna essay, what we have studied, that is something that we don't have here. Okay, so how does it work is, yes, the first, like you can see here, there is essay, there is SRE, SRS, SAE. So all of this is in your first 11 chapters, and these first 11 chapters will hold a weightage as per ICI of 50 to 55%. So approximately 45 to 50 marks, including your options, is basically something that is covered from, is asked from the first 11 chapters. Then you have your digital assurance, where you get a 5 mark question. One 5 mark question is there in the examination, and you have your SDG and ESG. Again, you have one 5 mark question in the paper. So this is always going to be there. So one 5 mark question from these two chapters are going to be there. And then you have your professional ethics. So professional ethics is basically a code of conduct. So how CAs have to conduct and what are the things that they have to do. There has been a lot of importance given to your professional ethics currently, and this comes for around 70 to 24% as per ICI. So around 18 to 20, 24 marks is something that you can expect from this particular chapter. So there are a lot of questions. We'll do how the paper pattern really works at a later point of time, but just a broad idea on what is the weightage of the chapters. Okay, so here 20 to 24 marks is from your professional ethics. So 50 to 55 45 to 50 marks from your first 11 chapters, digital assurance, one 5 mark question, SDG ESG, one 5 mark question compulsory, professional ethics 18 to 24 marks. And then there are certain other chapters which are there. Now these chapters are actually, uh, to be very honest, they are quite vast. So they will cover like a 300 page in your module. So they are vast, but the weightage is not much from each particular chapter. So there'll be like a 4 mark question, and then there'll be like a 1 mark question in your MCQ, 2 mark questions. So something like that. But not everything will be asked. So it is quite a lot of study, and the overall weightage of all the chapters put together is 20 to 24 marks, including your options and everything. So these are those sundry chapters which are there. Of course, I'm not saying that they're not important, because they're for 18 to 24 marks, but each individual chapter, if you see, then there is the weightage is a little less as compared to your other chapters. So this is broadly how your bifurcation of your 19 chapters look like. We will start with standard chapters and then move to the non-standard chapters. That is how we'll go about it. In your examination, you will have your question 1, which will be your compulsory question. And then you have the other questions which are there, which are optional, out of which you'll have to eliminate one and you'll have to write the balance. So that is how the paper pattern will be. You will have 30 marks of MCQ and 70 marks of your questions, descriptive questions, case study questions. Audit, if you see the result that has just come, the result is not so great for audit. Students haven't been able to score very well in the subject. The overall paper that was set for May 25 was also quite difficult. So they have been trying to make it more case study based, and that is why students are facing difficulty in, writing the answers. Okay, so this will be the paper pattern question. All the questions will have the same standard practice, wherein you will have 5 mark 2 questions and 1 4 mark question. So a total of 14 marks. 5 questions you attempt for 14 marks, and that will give you your 70 marks. Okay, so this is how the broad paper pattern looks like. We will also get back to the paper pattern at the end, not right now. So this is how it looks like. Now in audit, particularly in audit, not just for you, you've given your inter, so you know how audit is and how you write the answers, correct? Audit, law, all of these things, because they're theory. In law, it's still easier to write the answers because it is, a law that's given to you, so you have to explain the law. In audit, when you go to write the answers, you find it to be a little what do you call, generic, correct? It is a little generic, and hence it becomes a little difficult to answer the questions that are given. So what we do is that we will go through the textbook. The textbook is basically the ICI module, and the ICI module is divided into 3 different volumes. What we have done is that we have eliminated things which are not very relevant, and we have removed it out. So things which are extra general knowledge, we'll of course discuss about it, but things which are not relevant are removed, and we have compiled it into 2 different volumes. So we've reduced the size and compiled it into 2 different volumes. Nothing that you need to know is not there in the textbook. So if you refer only to the textbook, that should be more than sufficient. Once we go through the textbook, we'll see what is taught in the textbook, which will be your this part. So here we will read through the textbook, we'll understand what is given, and then I'll make you write down the key points that you need to remember for that particular topic, because here everything that's written, everything you're not going to be able to memorize, correct, the entire module. So what we will do is that we will bifurcate and we will write down it into smaller parts, which is why I need you to have a notebook with you. So what happens is that once I teach you and then you write it down, you remember what is given here, correct, in the book. So you remember that this is what we have learned. Only thing I expect you to do is that once you are after the lecture, whenever you're free during the day, just read through, glance through what we have done. So just read the module, the textbook, and just go through everything. If you have any doubts, I'm here, we can solve the doubts together. And then go through the summary notes that are there, so it is already registered in your mind, so your first reading is already done. And then of course you will have to keep revising the notes that we have written at least, so that you don't forget audit, correct? So that is how ideally you should be studying audit, and that will help you remember the points. So two things to be kept in mind, just 1 second. Yeah, so read the textbook, just 1 second. Yeah, so you read the textbook that is given to you, read through the notes, and then keep revising the notes as and when you're free. So if you're studying some other subjects, say for example, if you're studying AFM, and at night if you have like half an hour, glance through the notes of one chapter. So there's a quick revision of what we have already done. So that will help you remember it till the very end, okay? Along with the chapters, we will do the question and answers which are asked in the examination. And earlier, what the institute used to do is ask everything from the module or from the past exam questions. The questions used to be similar, and a few questions here and there they would change to make the paper a little tricky. But if you see the May 25 exam question paper, they have changed everything. They have asked case study questions to really test your knowledge. So if the concepts are clear, then you will be able to answer the question no matter what. But if the concepts are not clear, if you're not understanding what the standards are trying to tell you, then it will be a little difficult for you to answer the questions. Okay, so we'll do the questions which are asked previously, but you should expect, because this is CA final, this is not CA inter or CA foundation, where most of the questions are either from your module or your module examples or your past question paper, MTP, RTP. This is CA final, where you are expected to have working knowledge also, and hence whatever is asked is assuming that you have a working knowledge of audit, and then accordingly you should be able to answer. So the conceptual clarity is something that will be expected. Apart from the standards which are mentioned here, a few standards from your CA Inter which you have done in your CA Inter is also something that sometimes institute can ask you about. So those standards are not included in the textbook, but I will be teaching you as and when we go through the topic. So it will be covered in the syllabus, and I have the extra notes, so if required I can send it to you. It's all CA Inter only, so nothing new, but I will just give it to you. So in case you want to refer those notes, you can refer those notes. In any case, whatever we write in the class, I will ensure that it is everything is written, so you don't miss out on anything irrespective of the notes. Okay, so that's how the entire portion looks like, and how we plan to go about it, what I expect you to do in class and after class. Please ensure that whatever is given, do not take screenshots, do not expect board notes. I really expect you to write down what is there for your benefit, not for my benefit. So please ensure that you write it down, because screenshots and photographs is something that is not going to be there with you. You will miss out, and then you will forget what's there, and then you have to read the entire audit book. So best to write it down. Also, we are taking the lectures in the morning, so it's very possible that we are sleepy, we are still in bed, mom serving tea, so it's possible ki you'll miss out on writing, but please ensure that you write, because it is very important for you to write. This is going to be like the last exam that you're giving if you're not studying any further, so make sure that you give it properly, give your 110%, and ensure that you write everything that's there and study for it properly, so that we are way above the passing marks and we don't have to worry whether checking is strict, checking is not strict. If you're way above, you will clear. Audit is again a paper where you can't short say that I will score this much. Like if you're doing FR, you're doing AFM, because these are practical subjects, so it's easier to kind of understand that okay, this is what I've done right, this is what I've done wrong, and this is the marks I will get. In audit, to judge how much you will get is really difficult, because it's a theory subject. So what you write and what the institute is expecting, all of that should match for them to give you the marks. Also depends on the examiner, correct? So let's write it in a way that we don't have to worry about the checking, and we are way above the passing marks that are required. Okay, so with that we start audit. Chapter wise bifurcation, and this is something that I will be sending along with the book, so you don't have to write it. Before we move ahead to the CA final audit, a quick revision of what we have done in CA Inter. Okay, so we have done understood what is the engagement. So when a client is appointing you to work for him or the firm or the company, at that point of time you enter into an engagement with the client, correct? And there are a lot of things that you check before you actually get into the engagement with the client, as to what the client is doing, whether you have the bandwidth, you don't have the bandwidth, you plan the entire strategy, and then you get into the audit process. So all of that we have learned. Now when I'm doing a assurance engagement, so my audit is basically a assurance that I'm giving. But am I giving that assurance to the management, saying that okay, very good, what you have done is right, and what you have not done right, this is wrong? No, assurance is basically I'm giving an assurance to people who are looking at my historical financial statements, and these are the people to whom I'm giving an assurance, saying that what the company has done is right or not right, or whatever. There's a qualification, there's an adverse remark here, correct? So here I'm giving an assurance to the people, to the confidence, to the intended users of the financial statement. So these are the intended users. I have to give them the confidence. Management, I don't have to give the confidence. I will obviously check what they have done, and I will give my opinion, I will give my recommendation, but it is not meant for them, correct? Assurance is for people who are the intended users, the investors, the shareholders. These are the people who are the intended users. So they are the people who are going to see whether everything that the company is doing, they're doing it properly, they're not doing it properly. The regulatory authorities, they will see that okay, what these are doing. So as a CA, my responsibility is what? Is to give an opinion which is free, independent opinion, and which is not a biased opinion. So if they are doing something wrong, I shouldn't be hiding because they're giving me money, but I should see that I have a membership number and I have to give them an opinion, because my bread and butter is based on the opinion that I'm giving. So if I give some wrong opinion or a wrong assurance, then in that case I'm responsible. Of course, this is assurance. So when we talk about assurance, there is reasonable assurance, correct? We always use the word reasonable assurance. We said that I will be giving a reasonable assurance. Why I will give a reasonable assurance? Because it is not possible for me to check each and everything that's being given by the management, and it's also possible that even though I am checking each and everything that the management is given, management is giving me only things which they want me to view, and they're not giving me things which they don't want me to see. So there's a possibility of that also happening, correct? So when the Satyam fraud happened, the auditors were not held responsible, correct? So here there's a possibility that they may have shared information only to the extent to show that whatever they're doing is right, is correct, is as per law, but actually what is happening is not as per law. So my responsibility as a CA, as an auditor, is to get a reasonable assurance after checking things, saying that whatever I've got is something which is correct to the best of my knowledge, and then based on that I give my opinion, I give my recommendation, and the intended users get the confidence that whatever is given here is something which is true and correct. Okay, now when I talk about audit, we also talk about something called as a review, again something that we did in inter. So here between audit and between review, what was the difference? What do you think is the difference between the audit and a review? Audit will always be an extensive checking, correct? Review, if you see, we had done last year in law, we also had done the same in audit, saying that when I'm doing a review for listed companies, we do a quarterly review, correct? It's called a limited review. In this case, I'm not doing a thorough checking of everything that's there, and I'm just going through the overview. So there's limited checking involved, and because there is limited checking involved as compared to audit, where I'm going to do like a thorough check and go through the process, is a lot more as compared to a limited review. So here what I'll do is that in this case my assurance will also be a limited assurance, correct? So when I'm doing audit, I will give a reasonable assurance, but when I am doing a review, I will be doing a limited assurance. My to the extent of whatever I have seen, and based on the process, I will say it's a limited assurance. So every time I give a review, when I do limited review for companies, my assurance is a limited assurance as compared to audit, where there's a reasonable assurance. We had this same chart last year which says that this provides a high level of assurance, this provides lower level of assurance. It's elaborate and extensive. Here there are fewer procedures involved because the time is also less, the data available, like for an audit I will have the entire financial year for which I will go through all the data. Here I have it for a quarter, and then based on that I will give the data, give the assurance. It draws reasonable conclusions on the basis of sufficient appropriate evidence. It involves obtaining sufficient appropriate evidence to draw limited conclusions, correct? So here we studied about the difference between audit and review. Again, this is something which we already studied, just going through that because this is something that's going to help us in this year. So I'm just giving you a brief about what we have already done. Then we also studied about historical financial statements and prospective financial information, correct? So here in historical financial information, what did we study? Historical financial and prospective financial information, we understand historical is something that is done, already done and dusted. So historical, past. Prospective is something that I want to do in the future, which I expect to happen, which I am forecasting. It is not something that has already happened. So historical financial information, so most of your standards, accounting standards, are based on your assurance on your historical financial information, correct? So when I'm doing audit of the last financial year, I am giving an assurance on the historical financial information of the last financial year, correct? Because the year has already gone by, all the information that everything that should have happened has happened. I have the sales number, I have the profit, I have the stock, trade receivable, everything is already there which has happened. So that is my historical financial information. Then you have your prospective financial information. In prospective financial information, what will I do is, basically I will see that, okay, if you have ever done valuation in, or have, if you have ever seen a valuation report in your audit, then what will you see, that in the valuation report the CA will give a certificate, correct, saying that this is how the forecast will look like. Okay, so because I was into tax, I never really did it a lot, but when I joined the e-commerce company and they were raising funds, I got to do it twice. And in prospective financial information, the best part, not the best part, but the difference is that in basically a prospective financial information, I may think that, okay, if I'm getting 100 crores of funds, then this is how my profit and loss account will look like over the years. This is how the balance sheet will look like over the next 5 years, next 10 years, is what I will put. Now, when I am projecting, when I am forecasting, my knowledge of the industry, my knowledge of the company, my knowledge of the promoters, people working, the directors, will have an impact on what I assume that this is how the funds will be used. It will be used, say X crores will be used for marketing, X crores will be used to have more employees on the payroll. So this is how the cost will increase, and then this will have an impact on, based on how the industry is going, how the sector is progressing, whether it's a new upcoming sector or it's something that is already there and I'm getting into the same sector, so then competition is higher. So my the sales will not be as high as in an upcoming sector, correct? So based on that, I will give a projection that this is what I am expecting to happen. Now, my projection of the financial information, my prospective financial information, my prospective financial statement will be different from probably you, will be different from probably the promoters who may have some other targets in mind. So here it keeps on changing depending on the person and his or her perspective of the industry, correct? And also there's a possibility that I may have forecasted. So the edtech industry, when COVID came, there was a boom, right? Saying that, okay, everyone's going to do great and everything's going online, people don't want to do offline. But then gradually, that as soon as COVID went by, that started falling. So these companies like Byju's, what they expected or what they forecasted that the financial information will look like after, over a period of say 5 years, over a period of 10 years, it may not have actually been true, because of the industry, because of the reaction of the people, because of the overall sector that is there, correct? So in prospective financial information, first thing is that whatever I am expecting, that may or may not happen, because circumstances keep changing, and then it's different every time. So people who were into face-to-face lectures at the time of COVID had never ever thought that they will have to teach online and everything will go online, correct? As in the CA industry as well. But things change. So in prospective financial information, what I am expecting need not necessarily happen due to change in circumstances. It is possible that the prospective financial information may also change. Also, prospective financial information from my point of view, from your point of view, from third party. So every CA will have a different view on the prospective financial information. So historical financial information is something that has already happened. Prospective financial information is not something that has already happened. It is basically a forecast of something that is going to happen, and I am giving that information currently based on my understanding of the industry. Okay, so that is prospective financial information. I am discussing it because it is relevant, so please ensure that we'll write this down, but just ensure that you are understanding here. Okay, now institute along with your ICI, with the government, the ICI along with the government has issued your different kind of engagement standards, correct? So the first 11 chapter that we are going to study about is all about your engagement standards. Uh, we've studied about standards on auditing, but there are other things also which we will study this year, correct? So what is standards of auditing? So there are four things that we have. One is your standards of auditing, your essays which we have. So here when I see the chapter wise bifurcation, you can see, so these are all essays. So all these chapters are essay based chapters, correct? So standards of auditing. Then you have standards on review engagement. So I told you there's a difference between audit and there's a difference between a review, correct? So when I'm doing audit, this is the standard that I have to follow. What are standards? We know what are standards. Standards are basically guidelines. So I cannot apply a clear strict rule saying that everyone in the education industry will be doing this, correct? So I give you standards. These are broad standards which is applicable to everyone, whether you are into education, whether you are into hospitality, anything, this standard will be applicable to you. So you have to do your audit as per this standard, correct? So that is your standard. Now when I'm doing my audit, then I have to comply with my essays. But when I'm doing a review, when I'm giving a limited assurance, not a reasonable assurance, then at that point of time I will see what is SRE. So here in SRE you have as you can see one full chapter on review of financial information, and here you will talk about SREs. Then you have standards on assurance engagement. So here you are talking about assurance engagements which is other than audit and review of historical financial information. So when I say other than historical financial information, what am I talking about? I'm talking about my prospective financial information. We know what a prospective financial information is. Prospective financial information is nothing but basically a forecast of what I'm expecting the future to look like. So in that, how will the assurance work? So I'm giving a forecast, a CA is giving a certificate. How is that assurance that I'm giving is working? There is a standard on that. So these are called as SAEs, and we have SAEs also here, which is based on your chapter 11. So they have nicely bifurcated SA, SR, SREs, SAE, all of that into different chapters. So they have not mixed and matched everything. So there's a clear bifurcation. So you know you're talking about SA, you know you're talking about SRE, you're talking about SAE, or you're talking about SRS. So this is prospective financial information. And last we have here is your standard on related services. So when I'm talking about anything that is related to compilation engagement or to agreed upon procedures. So here I'm not giving you assurance on anything. Okay, so as a CA I can do two things. I can either do an audit of what you've already done, or I can act as an accountant and do the things for you, correct? So when I'm doing the things for you, when you have told me, okay, this is what I want to do, say for example you want to do something on developing the internal control. So here I'm not auditing the internal control that you already have. Understood? Here what I'm doing is that I am myself setting up the internal control process. I'm myself writing the accounts. So when I'm doing it myself as an accountant, then I will see my SRS. Okay, so these are the four things. Of course, we'll discuss this in detail when we are doing it, but to give you an idea of standards of auditing. So standards of auditing will always talk about your audit of historical financial information. So I am auditing the data which is already happened, and now I'm giving you my assurance that whatever has happened has correctly happened as per regulatory requirements and everything has been met. All of that I will give you. So that is my standards of auditing. Second is my standards of review engagement. So when I'm talking about review engagement, so whenever in the exam there is a question asked that there was a review of this particular thing, you should immediately understand that we will talk about SREs, because this is review of historical financial information. So basically in the exam, when there is a case study asked, you should be able to identify whether I am talking about SA, I am talking about SRE, I am talking about SRS, I am talking about SAE. What am I talking about? Based on that, you will know which chapter I am talking about, and accordingly I will be able to answer my question. Are we understanding? So for that you need to know what is the difference between the four of them. If you know that, then in the question, as soon as you read the question, you see, okay, historical financial information, they've done a audit. So I'm talking about SA. Or historical financial information, they've done a review. So I'm talking about SRE. Or if there's no historical financial information, they are talking about forecast and projections of something that should happen in the future, then you know, okay, I'm talking about assurance engagement, because I'm not talking about other than historical financial statements. Or when I have only set up the process, I am only working as an accountant, I'm not really auditing, then you know that you are doing related service. You remember we've done something called as 144 last year in law, wherein related service that we can do as a CA. Correct? So that is related service, where I am doing something and I am not auditing. I am just making it and giving. Someone else will do the auditing once it becomes historical financial information. Correct? So this is the difference between your standards of accounting, your SREs, SAs, and your SRS. Are we understanding? There's one more last thing that is there here, is called your standards on quality control. Okay, so here whatever is the quality that the firm's responsibility for its system to conduct the audit and review of financial information and other assurance. So what is there is a standard quality that ICI expects CAs to maintain. And what is that quality that the firm should maintain? These are your standards on quality control. The first chapter we talk about is on standards of quality control, so we'll discuss that in detail over there. So basically it is for the CA firm, saying the firm as a whole, this is the kind of quality we expect a CA who is running a CA firm to maintain in order to do the audit. Okay, you have your your NFRA. We've done it in law last year, correct? Where we talk about how NFRA is reviewing what the auditors are doing and they are penalizing, correct? After the Modi government came into force, there's a lot of uh, what do you call review of the auditor's work. If you're listed companies and you have the turnover and all of that, then obviously NFRA will be there. But other than that also, CAs are always constantly under the scanner right now. So everything that we do, because there is less liking by the government, correct, for the CA. So here, every time we do something, it's always put under the scanner and ensured that if something goes wrong, then we are penalized. पहले ऐसा नहीं था. Earlier it used to be कि it was monitored. I'm not saying it was not monitored, but it was not stringently monitored. होता था, and if there's a lax तो भी चल जाता था sometimes. But in the current scenario, lax is something that the institute will not appreciate, because then if you do something wrong, NFRA catches you, then the institute's name is spoiled, correct? So here, standards on quality control is basically giving you what kind of quality you should be maintaining and how you should be accepting assignment, what you should be keeping in mind. All of that information is basically on your standards on quality control, which we'll do in the first chapter itself. Okay, so here you have your SA, SRE, SAE and SRS. These four things we have to remember based on whether we are doing audit or review of historical financial information, or we are doing a assurance on the prospective financial information, or we are not acting as an auditor. We are acting as an accountant and we are providing related services. So these four things we remember, and the fifth thing that we should know is that what is the quality and how is the quality standard given by the institute, and how we should comply with the auditing standards that are given to us. Okay, so we'll take a 1 minute break and then we will quickly write down a small gist of what we have studied here and then move ahead to the first chapter. Okay, so we'll take a quick break here. Yes. So we'll start writing now. When I say HFI, it's historical financial information. So if you want, you can write down somewhere HFI is historical financial information. This also will write down so that it's done. Should I change the screen? it's pending, just let me know. I'll show the previous screen. After this, if you have some space, what I want you to do is draw a chart which is horizontal, so in the landscape form, and we will write down. Is this done? Don't write this the way I'm writing it, okay, because you'll have to write down things below it, so you'll need some space. Okay. Here, first point we'll write down standards of auditing. Standards of auditing. In that, first, under that, just write down audit of historical audit of historical financial information, audit of historical financial information, in bracket write down reasonable assurance, reasonable assurance. Reasonable assurance. Second, write down in the second part. So the first box is about your audit, standards of auditing. Now the second part you will write down standards on review engagement SRE. Standards on review engagement SRE. Below that write down first word review. I want you to write with a different color pen. So write down review of historical financial information. Review of historical financial information. Review of historical financial information, and below that write down limited assurance. Limited assurance. Limited assurance. Then the third dabba write down standards on assurance engagement. Standards on assurance engagement. Bracket SAE. And below that write down Audit, no, don't write audit, write down on assurance on subject matters with a different color pen. Write down other than audit and review, other than audit and review of HFI. Example, in the same point write down example, examining prospective financial information. Example, examining prospective financial information. Then fourth box will be on standards on related services. Standards on related services, bracket SRS. Below that write down no assurance given, no assurance given, comma, only assisting client, only assisting client on, assisting client on, with a different color pen write down compilation engagements, compilation engagements slash agreed upon procedures, agreed upon procedures. And agreed upon procedures के वहाँ पे जैसे in the bracket write down AUP, AUP. In the same point, just write down one more point. CA acts as accountant and not auditor. CA acts as accountant and not auditor. And the last box in the fifth part, we will write down standards on quality control. Standards on quality control, bracket SQC, SQC. And in SQC write down quality control dash firm's responsibility to maintain firm's responsibility to maintain, with a different color pen write down quality of policies and procedures. Maintain quality of policies and procedures. Maintain quality of policies and procedures. Okay. Now this is your introduction. Below the introduction, below this chart is occupying your one page, we will just write down this in short. So what you will write down is that paper or distribution of marks is basically what you can give the heading as. Distribution of marks below that write down like this. Done. Now once you've written this, write down essay chapters. Below that write down chapter 1 to 11. Dash 45 to 50 marks. 45 to 50 marks. When I say essay, it's basically standards, not just standards auditing, everything SRE, SQC, all of that is included. Then other than standards, next line write down other than standards. In that first write down digital auditing and assurance. Digital auditing and assurance, ब्रैकेट में 6 तो लिख दो chapter 12. Digital auditing and assurance. Digital auditing and assurance, chapter 12. Write down 5 marks. Second line write down chapter 13 to chapter 17. Chapter 13 to chapter 17. (24 marks). 24 marks. Next line write down chapter 18 dash SDG and ESG. SDG and ESG. You will know the full forms by the end, so you don't need to write the full thing, it's okay. SDG and ESG dash 5 marks. Last, chapter 19, professional ethics. Chapter 19, professional ethics dash 18 to 24 marks. 18 to 24 marks. Okay, so this is giving you a broad idea on the importance, which chapters are easy, which are medium, which are difficult. All of that we will discuss as and when we discuss the chapter. Now we will start with the first chapter which we have, that is your quality control. Okay, so quality control is basically divided into two parts. We talk about, so each chapter, like we see here, each chapter we are talking about some essay. Okay, so we are discussing certain standards, and based on what we are discussing, there are different series. So 200 ka series hai, 300 hai, 400 hai, 600, 700. So there are different series depending on what we are discussing. So say for example, if we are discussing reporting, then we will talk about all the essays under the 700 series. वैसा. So हर एक के लिए there is one different series that we have. Here when we are talking about quality control, we are talking about SQC. Remember what is SQC? Here we did standards on quality control. So I told you that that is something that we are going to discuss. So standards on quality control, and in that SQC1 is something that we are discussing. So here SQC1, and we are also talking about SA220. These two standards are overlapping. So there is a lot of things which are common between the two. So we'll start with SQC1 and then we will move on to SA220, and we'll see how it is common and what are the similarities and what are the new things that we need to remember. Okay. Now, so when I said that we will talk about SQC, when we were talking about standards on quality control, the brief introduction, what did I say? That quality control is nothing but basically for every firm, what is the quality that the firm has to maintain in order to be associated with your ICS. If you are associated with ICI, then this is the kind of quality that the firm is expected to maintain. So while I say that you have to maintain quality, it's a very subjective term. For someone, doing a particular thing will be quality कि अच्छा ठीक है मैंने ये कर दिया ऊपर से देख लिया and this is my quality, so I've done what should be done. Someone may be a perfectionist and he may say कि नहीं, I have to check each and everything, I need to have the documentation for each and everything, and only then I will say that this quality has been achieved. ऐसा ऊपर से देखा, that is not quality. So it's a very subjective term, correct? So quality जो Big Four maintain करता है and the quality that a small CA would maintain, there will be difference. Big Four will have documentation, 1000 documentation for everything, they will take everything on record. A small CA maybe he'll talk, he'll say हाँ ठीक है, he's given this information, this is the document I've got, and he'll not have like a proper documentation to maintain that. He'll take a Xerox, he'll put it in his file and he'll know that this is there. But in a Big Four, he'll put in the file, he will maintain a record of this is what has been taken, who has taken it, why it has been taken, and give that information and record so that anyone who is looking at that data in future also will know that okay, this is how it was done and this is what was taken. They will also attach mail trail saying that I have asked for this information for so and so purpose, and the mail reply from who has given that data from the team, that because people keep changing in the organization, so that also they will put in the record. So that is a quality that is there for them. So this is a standard. So there are some things Big Fours will do, a mid-sized firm will do differently, a small time CA, a proprietor CA will do differently. तो हर एक का एक अलग अलग क्वालिटी का अपना ये होता है that this is my quality, correct? So for him, if he has taken everything, he's done the quality. What is the need of taking 1000 prints and maintaining such big files? Because I've ensure that what is required has been taken, and I'll be able to answer if someone calls me in the future, any regulatory authority. But यहाँ पे ऐसा नहीं होता है, तो हर एक का एक अलग क्वालिटी होता है. So this quality standard is basically the institute giving you that these are the things which you should be maintaining, and this is how you can accept the assignment, and then I will say that the quality is maintained. You want to maintain 10 files, okay. You want to maintain 2 files, you want to maintain 1 file, that is not my lookout. But these are the things that should be in place, that should be there in order to say that the quality has been maintained. Okay, so here SQC1, SA220 both will talk about the same. Now SQC1, what is SQC1 saying? SQC1 is saying that quality control for firms that perform audits, review of historical financial information. So you have your audit, you have your review, other assurance मतलब अपन ने भी डिस्कस किया, other than your historical financial, correct? Audit and review of historical financial information we are doing other assurance also, and related service engagement. Okay, so if you see, it is talking about audit, so we are talking about audit of historical financial information, that is essays. Then he is saying that we will do review of historical financial information, so we are talking about SREs. Then he is saying that we will do other assurance, which means that we are talking about our SAEs on assurance engagement other than historical financial information, and related service engagement. So I am talking about my SRS. So my quality control, whether you are doing a SA, whether you are doing a SRE, whether you are doing a SAE, or whether you are doing a SRS, this is the quality control. So whether you are reviewing your historical financial information, prospective financial information, whether you are acting as auditor, whether you are acting as accountant, this is the quality control that you will maintain, and that is what SQC1 is talking about. Okay, so the name itself is very big, you are expected to remember, but this is how you will remember. It is talking about audit and review of historical financial statement, because that is information, because that is what your SA and SRE will talk about. Then you have your assurance, and then you have your related services, correct? So this is what is about your quality control for everything that you have. Now it is saying that it doesn't matter what kind of firm you are, whether you are a proprietor, whether you are a mid-size firm, whether you are a Dhruva kind of a firm जो big four नहीं है but big four से एक level नीचे है, या you are a firm which is a big four. I don't care. If you are a person who is associated with ICI, then in that case you will have to maintain the quality control. So it is saying that it applies to all firms irrespective of the constitution, whether you are 1 partner, you are 100 partners, you are 20 partners, doesn't matter. If you are a firm who is doing any kind of auditing work or assurance work or prospective financial information related services and you are associated with ICI, then this is the quality control you will have to maintain. Okay, now what is it saying? That it is designed, requires the firm should establish a system of quality control designed to provide it with reasonable assurance that the firm and its personnel comply with professional standards and regulatory and legal requirement, and the reports issued are appropriate. So one is that I want you to comply with all the regulatory requirements. So everything that is required to be complied with as per law, that is something that you will comply with, and after complying with that you will give a report which is suitable and which is appropriate in the circumstances under which you are giving the report. Okay, now appropriate in the circumstances का मतलब क्या है? रिपोर्ट रेगुलेटरी लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट वी ऑल नो कि अपने को ये सब चीज़ें करने का है एंड दिस इज़ व्हाट इज़ एप्लीकेबल. सो इफ़ आई एम अ बैंक, this is what is applicable to me. If I am into say education, then these are the rules which are applicable to me. Then it will be under GST, service tax, whatever it is. All of the rules which are applicable to me will apply. इनकम टैक्स में इतना लिमिट क्रॉस किया, इतना रिव्यू करने का, इतना ऑडिट करने का, लिस्टेड कंपनी है, all those legal requirements, regulatory requirements, I should be aware of. That is why we are studying all of that, correct? And then I will give a report which is appropriate in the circumstances. Appropriate in the circumstances इसके लिए लिखा है क्योंकि there is a possibility. Say for example अगर कोविड हो गया, करेक्ट, जब कोविड आया था इनिशियली जो स्टॉक टेकिंग हो रहा था एंड इवन टुडे इज फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन ऑफ द स्टॉक. व्हेन कोविड सेकेंड वेव हैपेंड, इट वाज नॉट पॉसिबल टू डू अ फिजिकल वेरिफिकेशन ऑफ द स्टॉक. पहले ऐसे था दैट व्हेन यू आर हैविंग अ बोर्ड मीटिंग, ऑल ऑफ द डायरेक्टर्स हु आर देयर फॉर द बोर्ड मीटिंग हैव टू बी पर्सनली प्रेजेंट. अभी कैसा है कि अच्छा ऑनलाइन भी हो सकता है. कोविड में भी ऐसा था कि समवन स्टक समवेयर एंड इफ यू वांट टू हैव अ मीटिंग देन दैट पर्सन हैज़ टू वर्चुअली बी अवेलेबल एंड देन हैव द मीटिंग एंड देन whatever is happening. So I'm doing a physical verification of stock. I'm giving a report based on the circumstances I have physically verified. But at that point of time, it was not possible to travel only because there was total lockdown. So it was not possible for me to go do physical verification. But I had to issue a report because regulatory legal requirement था. तो यहाँ पे what I will do is that I will take the stock with the camera on and based on the circumstances मैंने जो stock count किया उसके basis पे मैंने report issue किया. So यहाँ पे appropriate in the circumstances means that in that circumstances whatever I have collected the data that I will report, which is required as per regulatory legal requirements. I will collect that report and that I'll make a report, collect the data, make the report and then report it saying that I have based my report on so and so thing because of so and so reason. Correct? So two things we have to remember. One is that it is applicable to all firms, it doesn't matter what size. Here we are talking about everything, SAE, SRC, SRS, SAS जो है, everything we are talking about, all four. And thirdly, I will say that it is based on my regulatory legal requirement जो है, that I have to meet and I also have to issue a report which is appropriate in the circumstances. But ये issue करने के लिए मेरे को क्या चाहिए? What are the things which are essential for me to ensure that this quality is maintained? Are we understanding? So here we have 6 things which we need to remember. It is saying that leadership responsibilities for quality within the firm, we get to each one of them. Ethical requirements, acceptance and continuance of client relationship and specific engagement, my human resources, my engagement performance, and the last part is my monitoring. So if I take care of each of the element, each of the 6 elements which are given to me, then it will be said that I have complied with my SQC1. Okay, now each of these elements will also give you guidelines on what should be taken care of or what should be taken into account before you say that the element has been complied with. Okay, before we go there, first just write down SQC1 dash quality control for firms, quality control for firms that perform audits, bracket में with a different color pen write down SA and normal pen से review of historical financial statements. Review of historical financial statements. डिफरेंट पेन से ब्रैकेट में लिखेंगे SRE, again with normal pen, and other assurance, ब्रैकेट में with a different pen SAE, normal pen से, and related service engagements, ब्रैकेट में SRS. Below that write down first bullet, objective, no, not objective, sorry. First bullet write down applicable to all firms, with a different pen write down irrespective of their constitution. Below that write down objective, dash करके establish a system of quality control, to provide reasonable assurance, that, then divide it into two parts like you see on the screen. Under the first part write down firm and its personnel comply with, different color पेन से लिखेंगे, professional standards and regulatory and legal requirements. Professional standards and regulatory and legal requirements. Professional standards and regulatory and legal requirements. On the other side, write down, start with a different pen, reports. Just see the screen how I have written reports in a different pen, and then issued by firm / engagement partner, issued by firm / engagement partner are, different color pen से appropriate, different color pen से लिखना है appropriate in circumstances, are appropriate in circumstances. Okay, and then just copy the elements as you see on the screen. Just copy the 6 elements of systems of quality control. Yes, done. The last part on QC policies, document plus communicate to firm's personnel. Just write it down. I will explain that. Okay. Okay. Now moving ahead. Now talking about, just one second. Yes. Now, first thing that we are talking about is the leadership responsibility. Leadership responsibility for quality within the firm. So, what happens is that your leader is someone, the head basically, is someone who is going to determine how the entire structure of the firm looks like, correct? So, generally, also, see if you're working and you know that you have a senior, if that senior is a good person who is assisting you, who is really guiding you to become a better person, then the entire that quality of that person will flow in the entire team, correct? So you will try to, so like when I had my first boss in PwC, I would want to be like her only because she's the first person I'm kind of working with, correct? So she was very particular about what she did. She would read through the bare act. She would ensure that everything, all the opinions which are given are going perfectly out, and she'll review each and every information before she will actually write down something and give it as an opinion. So that is something that I learned, and that is something that was passed on to me because my leader was as such, correct? So my partner is also someone who would always see the bare act, and then he will come and tell me that this is what how you should answer, this is what should be the opinion. So everything that I learned from PwC from my partner there was because that is how he used to himself do the things, and that is how I learned it. So when the partner was changed for a brief period of time, was not keeping well, I was under some other partner and had to work there, and he would say just Google how it's done. Okay, and my brain would not accept ki acha I have to Google something up, because why should I Google up when there is a bare act right in front of me, and the bare act is something which I can read and I can understand. Why do I have to Google up, correct? So that would never come to me. But if that is something that I would have learned over the period of years, so the team which was formed under that particular partner, they would never read the bare act, they would never open the bare act, वो हमेशा गूगल कर लेते थे, because वैसा ही होता है. There are some partners who will probably tell you that this opinion has already been given by someone, so you just copy paste that particular part. So in that case what flows in the team कि check करो किसी ने बनाया है, copy paste करो, and don't bother to see by yourself, correct? So you're just copy pasting, you're getting the information from somewhere. So that is what the leadership is flowing. So as a leader, how I am as a person, and what are my values, what are my quality checks, or what is my standard of quality, is something that will flow to my juniors. So if I am expecting that this is something should be done in a particular way, ऐसा होना चाहिए, ऐसा इसका quality होना चाहिए, this is the thoroughness with which I'm going to check what I'm doing, then that quality will be passed on to my junior. So yesterday we were in a hospital and the doctor is really really nice, correct? So here he is the person who is very, he's nice to his patients. He's not like, he's a very famous doctor, but he's not like that typical doctor जो एकदम स्टिफ होते हैं. They will not, they'll be like very काम से काम टाइप, इतना बता दिया तो इतना ही होगा, वैसे टाइप का नहीं था. He is very chilled and he'll answer your questions, and he'll talk very friendly, in a very friendly manner. And the same quality you will see in the nurses or the people who are helping out. They were also similar. They'll talk very nicely to you, politely to you, they'll be very friendly. ऐसा नहीं, हाँ ऐसा बोला तो ये ऐसा ही करने का है. So they'll help you answer your questions. So what a leader is, that will always flow to the team. no matter how hard you try. And that is why you see so many books on leadership, right? Because the leader नहीं अच्छा है, so everyone wants to be a good leader. But if you are a leader who is micromanaging, what is micromanaging? That मेरा जूनियर क्या कर रहा है, हाँ चाय पीने गया था, हो गया 10 मिनट हो गया, चल आ जा. खाना खाने गया था, क्यों 35 मिनट्स लगा, आज हाफ एन आवर का ब्रेक था ना. So when I am a leader who is micromanaging, my juniors will also, whether you like it, you don't like it, you become like them. Correct? So people who under whom you are reporting, you become like them. And hence it is said that leader जो होता है should be someone who has high quality standards. Correct? He should be the person who should be in a position to lead. He should have the capability, he should have the knowledge, he should have that experience in order to be able to lead. If you don't have that, then in that case the quality will flow accordingly in the organization, and then it is difficult to maintain your quality control check. Correct? So leaders are someone who are very very important practically also, and of course in your standard it is one of the elements. So what is it saying? That you should have an internal culture based on the recognition that the quality is essential. Such policies and procedures require firm's chief executive officer or the managing partners to assume ultimate responsibility for the firm's system of quality control. The example set by the leader encourages high quality audit work. Person assigned with responsibility by the firm's chief executive or managing partner should have sufficient and appropriate experience, the ability, and the necessary authority to assume that responsibility. And it has been clearly laid down that the firm's business strategy is subject to overriding requirement for the firm to achieve quality in all the engagements. And it is important that audit quality should be of paramount importance, and it should be something which is non-negotiable. Okay. Now when I am a leader and when I am seeing कि quality maintain करना है, what are the things that I should ensure is that commercial considerations do not override the quality of work performed. The firm's policy procedures addressing performance evaluation, compensation and promotion are designed to demonstrate the firm's overriding commitment to quality. And third says that it has sufficient resources for the development, documentation and support of quality control. So it is saying the first thing that I have to ensure as a leader is that when I'm taking up any assignment, only because someone's giving me more money and I know that he is not complying with certain rules and procedures, so because पैसा ज़्यादा दे रहा है, तो I tell him that okay, no problem, I will take your work. So your commercial consideration, the money that you're getting, should not override the quality of work performed. It reminds me when I was doing my articleship. So initially there was service tax, correct? GST nahi tha. So in service tax we had a client, and my partner took over the client. It was a mid-sized firm, and he took over the client, and this client of ours, he had a service tax registration is what he claimed, and he was collecting service tax from everyone by providing services, and he will add the service tax and take it. अभी सर्विस टैक्स कलेक्ट किया तो डिपॉजिट भी होएगा, but that never got deposited. Okay, so because we were there as CAs and we were guiding them, we started checking कि service tax registration किधर है, because they are not filing returns, they are not doing any payments, all of that. So here he said that for him that service tax number was not his number. He said, I take some service tax number, basis that I issue my invoices and I collect service tax. Service tax मेरे को पैसा मिल गया, and I keep that service tax money with me because my number is not there only. Why should I deposit in someone else's number? So I keep the service tax with me, and that is that extra money that I'm earning. And every time there is some inquiry on why this invoice is issued under this service tax number, it is not deposited, I change the service tax number. Understanding what he is doing? He is quoting someone else's service tax number. Service tax का पैसा ले रहा है, लेकिन that पैसा which he is collecting today, if you are taking GST, charging GST, that GST has to go to the government. No, I can't keep it no in my pocket. चलो कि मेरा पैसा है, so that GST goes to the government. But his number is only not there. If GST number is not there, you should not ideally be collecting GST, not adding that GST to your invoice. He added GST to the invoice, but he never deposited that money. So that was an extra income that he's getting. Okay, he is ready to, so we identified that this is a issue and this is non-negotiable. Was if I am a CA, I would not want to sign something like this because my bread and butter is at stake, no? And he was ready to pay us a very good handsome amount for the services that we are providing, provided that this is something that is not disclosed, that is understood. He didn't say it, but it was understood कि ये बताने का नहीं है किसी को कि ये मेरा extra income है. Correct? So here what happens is that as a leader, as a partner, I have to decide whether that commercial consideration is hampering my services that I am performing. Correct? So my partner said that I'm not going to sign any of this, and we discontinued the engagement because it didn't make sense to him. Correct? So that is a leadership quality that he had, which was inherited. Today if you tell me ऐसा कुछ sign करने का, I will also not sign because I've learned that ये सब गलत काम नहीं करने का. Correct? But if my partner had done it, so there are a lot of CAs, okay, lot of them who do such wrong things, correct, and without any hesitation कि कौन सा बड़ा बात है, because he found another CA who was ready to sign everything. So there are CAs, correct. So that is the leadership. So that leadership जो second वाला CA है who is ready to sign in spite of there being no service tax number, the people who are working under him, they'll be also okay saying that ठीक है ना, he is doing it, so we can do it. Correct? So the leadership quality flows, and hence it is saying that your commercial consideration, only because you're getting higher money, it should not impact the quality that you're providing. Secondly, it is saying that when you are giving within the firm also, when you're giving promotions, when you're doing appraisals, correct, at that point of time, you should see and you should reward a person who is committed to quality, who is not doing wrong things only because there is more money involved. Correct? So your internal, as a leader, it is your responsibility to ensure कि जो अपना इंटरनल फॉर्म में अप्रेजल या प्रमोशंस हम देते हैं, जो अच्छा काम करता है, जो क्वालिटी के साथ अडियर करता है, उसको हम प्रमोशन दे. People who don't comply with quality, who are lax or who are okay with things not being as per legal regulatory requirement, they should not be given that promotion or appraisal in order to ensure that the quality of the firm is maintained. And third, it is saying that you should have sufficient resources for your development, documentation, support of quality control. So you should have enough number of human resource to ensure that everyone is able to check and do the work that is there. Everything that you are doing is documented properly, and that quality control of the firm is maintained. Are we understanding? So this is about your leader. So leader के लिए हम लोग को क्या याद रखने का है, that he is the person who is either the chief executive officer or your managing partner, and he is the person who is responsible for ensuring कि फर्म का जो क्वालिटी कंट्रोल है वो कैसे मेंटेन करना है. While maintaining this quality control, he will have to ensure that the commercial considerations do not override the quality of the work. Your appraisals and promotions are based on people who are doing good quality and maintaining the standards of the firm. And the third is that you have sufficient resources for documenting, maintaining, developing and support of your quality control system. These 3 points are very, very important. There is a case study, test your knowledge karke, in your module, which says that there is a client who is not complying with any of the, what do you call, the regulatory requirements. ED उसके ऊपर कुछ तो notice भेजा है, income tax has also sent a notice, all of that thing, and he has come to you, you are the CA, and he said that, being my friend, you take up my work. and I will give you 25% extra fees compared to what is the standard rate. So say for example, for a firm mid-size, if 25,000 is the audit fees, I will give you 25% extra, but this is the issue that I am involved in and you help me out with that extra fees. So Mr. CAX, whatever the name is, has decided to go ahead with the assignment. Now you are supposed to advise based on whatever the standards of auditing, saying that whether this is something that can be accepted or cannot be accepted. Correct? So first thing here is that you should understand that because he is getting more money and hence he is ready to accept something assignment which where people are not doing the right things, then it is talking about my quality control. Then I will say that in quality control, three things I am taking into consideration is my commercial considerations should not override quality, my compensation, and this. Here the commercial considerations are overriding the work performed, and hence in such a case this particular assignment should not be taken. ऐसा करके we will have to answer. So these 3 points are something which are very important, which you should remember. So what we will do is we will first write it down. We will write down first heading, give leadership responsibilities. Leadership responsibilities. Below that, the first part write down objective. Objective. Below that, develop a culture. That quality is essential in performing engagement. Develop a culture that quality is essential in performing engagement. Second box we will make is for responsibility of. Below that write down firm's CEO or managing partner. Firm's CEO or managing partner. In the same box below write down second bullet, such person should have sufficient and appropriate experience. Such person should have sufficient and appropriate experience, ability and authority to develop quality control procedures. Third point write down incorporate in. Below that box write down internal documentation and training material. To ensure communication. And the last box write down firm to ensure. First write down commercial consideration do not override quality. Commercial considerations do not override quality. Second, performance evaluation, performance evaluation, comma, compensation and promotion to demonstrate firm's commitment to quality. To demonstrate firm's commitment to quality. And third, sufficient resources to develop, sufficient resources to develop, comma, document and support, develop, comma, document and support quality control policies, quality control policies and procedures. Okay, now below this chart I want you to leave a few lines, so leave some blank space, so we will get back whenever we find an important point which should be mentioned. So below each chart ensure you leave 4 to 5 lines so that we can add points there when we go ahead. Yes, so this is about your leadership. Second element says is about your ethical requirement. So ethical requirement is basically whatever you're doing, it has to be something that is ethically done, correct? There should not be something that is required to be done but is not being done. Like service tax, if you are collecting, if you don't have a GST number, you cannot collect GST. If you are collecting GST, then you have to ensure that it is deposited. So all of that is your ethical requirement, that these are the things that I will have to comply with. But otherwise, other than that also, what is the most important thing in your ethical requirement is your independence. So independence is basically that I am an independent third party who is reviewing the data that you have given to me, and then I am giving reasonable assurance to my intended users, saying, giving them the confidence that this is done. But if I am someone who is not an independent party, if I am related in some way, then will I give a unbiased view? No, my view will be biased, correct? So today if I am a practicing CA and if I am auditing the books of my brother, my view will never be independent, because I will do everything that I can to safeguard and ensure that his business is shown properly, correct? Even if he's doing something wrong, I will not want to highlight it, because boss, he's my brother na, so how will I highlight that particular thing for him, because I know he's my brother, he'll be in trouble if I do that, correct? So the third party, the intended users, may not get the confidence because we are related to each other, correct? Last year also when we were talking in law, in inter, when we are talking about the audit chapter that we did, so it says that you don't have to be related, or you don't have to have any loans or any borrowings, or you've not given any guarantee. Why are we ensuring all of that? Why can such people not be CAs or auditors for that particular firm? Because whenever you are related in some way, then the independence always goes for a toss, correct? And hence it is very, very important that you are not related in any way and you have independence from the firm. Only then you can provide these services, otherwise you cannot provide these services, because if you are related, then your views are not unbiased, and hence it can create a problem for the intended users. correct? So this independence requirement is very, very essential. The law has laid down that these are the things, if you are related in this way or the other, then you cannot be conducting the audit or you cannot be getting involved. But uh, firms also have to ensure that annually they take a independence a certificate saying that no one is related. So if you're working with the big fours, they will always ask you to give an independent certificate saying that you're not related to any person you are auditing, and you're providing the services for limited review, or you're providing for your audit of historical financial statements. You are not related in any way to any other person, and you have to give that, sign that independent certificate, and they take it very, very strictly, correct? Similarly, even the smaller firms, they ensure that independence is not independence is maintained, and the views that are given are not biased views that are being given, correct? So independence is one of the most important thing that the firm has to maintain in order to ensure that unbiased views are given. So it has to communicate its independence requirement, evaluate and identify circumstances that create threats to independence. If it is creating threats to independence, then in that case you will have to withdraw the engagement. So for example, when Bhavik sir, he started teaching, when he left his job, he was also trying to have his own practice for like a CA firm kind of a thing, along with teaching, initially when he started. And uh, people in my family, of course, did knew that we were dating. So a cousin of mine, he wanted a CA, and because he had started his own practice, I wanted him to have clients, and he was a nice client to have, big client. So I told him that I will suggest some CA, and I suggested, of course, his name. And then he was helping auditing and all of that he was doing for them, because he didn't know that there is a relation, it's not independent, correct? Then of course when we got engaged, he came to know that okay, now there is a independence issue, because now we are related in some way, because we are cousins, correct? So here you have identified that there is a independence threat, and as a CA he has to ensure that he withdraws from the assignment. So we gave the assignment to some other friend, and we told him that now as a CA you can take this up, because now this is creating a threat to independence. Are we understanding? So whenever there is a threat to independence as a CA firm, it is your responsibility to identify the threat. Okay, if today I am auditing a certain firm, and my cousin or my some relative is a accountant in that particular company, then in that case there is an independence threat, and as a CA firm it is my responsibility to ensure that I withdraw or highlight, or I am not involved in that particular assignment. That can also be done, correct? So you don't always have to withdraw, you have to ensure I am in no way involved in that particular assignment. That is also okay, correct? Also, I should be training my employees that whenever there is any threat to independence, or when you come to know about it कि अच्छा ऐसा कुछ हो रहा है, then in that case, say for example, my junior who is going for auditing to the company, she falls in love with the accountant there. So now there is an independent threat. तो यहाँ पे it is the responsibility of the people in the firm to communicate, sir ऐसा हो रहा है, and please ensure that she is not involved in this particular assignment, because there is a breach of independence. So whenever I'm training my personnel as a leader, it is my responsibility to ensure that the people understand that there should be independence, and if there is any threat to independence, any breach of independence, then they should immediately report to the leader, so that the quality of the firm is maintained. Are we understanding? Then, as we discussed, firm should obtain written confirmation of compliance with policies and procedures. Firm should establish criteria for determining need for safeguard to address the threat. Correct? Here also one more thing is that you can rotate your senior personnel requiring engagement quality control review. तो यहाँ पे क्या होता है that ideally last year we have studied that when you are doing audit for listed companies, correct, what do? That if you are an individual, then you have a 5 year term. If you are a firm, then you have 5 plus 5, then 5 years का cooling off period होता है, correct. So that we know that it happens in that particular manner. तो यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि what I will do is my senior partner who is involved, I will rotate that senior partner. How does this help? It will help because the person who is involved knows everything, correct. So if something is going wrong and he is hand in gloves with that particular person, so he will allow that thing to happen, because he'll be like chal mere ko bhi thoda cut de dena, correct. So when you change the partner, then the new partner will again look with a fresh perspective, and दूसरों का गलती निकालने में बहुत ही बहुत मजा आता है, राइट. किसी ने कुछ गलत किया है, another see it doing something wrong, so much fun to go and tell अरे see he's done this wrong, this is not correct. तो ऐसा when you rotate your partners, you come to know that okay, this is something that is going wrong and this is something that he will highlight. So that way that independence is maintained. For listed companies mandatory hota hai. So even in that rotation period that we studied last year, that after 5 plus 5 you have a 5-year ka cooling off period. Why is that cooling off period given? So that in that cooling off period, when some other CA firm is coming, they will see, they will understand, and they will highlight any issues which were not highlighted by the previous firm for whatever XYZ reason, correct. So here it is saying that if you are a listed company, that 5 plus 5 is something that is required. But at the same time, that rotation of the senior partner, even if you are there as a CA firm for a 10-year period, that rotation of senior partner has to happen at the end of 7 years. Understood? So, how does this work? If I am a PWC, okay? PWC. Okay, I am doing audit of XYZ and company. Okay, now here as per the legal requirement that we studied last year, क्या बोलता है that PWC can be there for 5 years plus 5 years, then cooling off 5 years. This we know, correct. Now this particular standard is saying that okay, this is okay, this you keep doing because that is something that we have already told you to do. But in this 5 years, say for example, Mr. X is the senior partner. So he can be a senior partner up to 7 years. You do audit for as PWC for 10 years, no problem. But at the end of 7 years, for the next 3 years which are there, you have some else, Mr. Y as senior partner. So within the firm also you will rotate your senior partner. Firm तो पूरा change होएगा ही, cooling off period होएगा, but ये जो internal rotation है, that also you will have to do if you are listed. क्यों listed को ऐसा भेदभाव? Why for listed? Because listed में public का पैसा is also involved, no? Public interest is also involved, so they have to ensure कि listed है, पैसा लोगों के पास से लिया है तो लल्लू बना के नहीं जाए. Understood? Hence it is saying that it has to be rotated after a predefined period, normally not more than 7 years, and this is applicable for listed entities. So that 5 plus 5, 10 years, 5 years cooling off period as a firm level. At a firm level you have to do that. Internally within the firm also, senior partner will change after 7 years. Okay, so ये याद रखेंगे. We'll write it down. And also there is a mandatory process for peer review, which we will again do. Peer review is basically same level पे तुम्हारा जो peer है is basically reviewing your work. That also you will have to do. Peer review we will do. So these are the two things that are there for listed entities. Are we understanding? So in ethical requirement, ethically तो काम करना ही है अपने को, and we have to ensure that whatever is the firm policy procedures वो सब लोग को communicated है. But what is more important is the independence, and independence is basically ensuring that the work that is given is done correctly, without any biased view, and there is no threat to independence. That is called your independence. Listed entity के लिए senior partner will change every 7 years पे senior partner will change. Also what happens is that when you have new people who are looking into the work, they come with a fresh perspective. Because if I am doing the same work on everyday basis, then I will think in a particular way, and I will feel okay, whatever I am doing is correct because इतने साल से मैं वही करती आई हूँ, correct? But if someone else is coming, they may have different way of seeing things and different way of analyzing things because he is the new person who's come. So because they see it with a fresh set of eyes, that is why also that independence may that rotation is required. So my senior in PwC always used to tell me. So she was very senior, correct? She was a senior manager. I was a fresher. I just joined, and अपने को क्या मालूम है, ओनली बुक नॉलेज अबाउट वट एवर लाइक हाउ यू आर स्टडिंग, एंड जो थोड़ा बहुत आर्टिकलशिप में सीखा है वो. सो एवरी टाइम शी इज सेंडिंग आउट एन ओपिनियन नोट, she will come to me and she will say, Khushboo, read opinion if it is okay. Now I thought probably I don't have much work, so she is giving it to me saying कि चल पढ़ ले तो मेरा भी टाइम पास हो जाएगा. But every time she'll ask me, did you find something wrong, or and I had to answer. अभी मेरे को लगता था वो सीनियर मैनेजर, शी वॉज विद द फॉर्म फॉर ऑलमोस्ट मोर देन 10 years समथिंग, तो वो मेरे को पूछती है अपना फ्रेशर, नो नॉलेज, एंड आई वुड जस्ट glance through it, and I would, even if I feel something's wrong, I would not have the courage to go and tell her ki, this is wrong. So one day she told me that when I come to you and when I come and ask you something saying whether this is right or wrong, if you feel it is wrong, it is your responsibility to come and tell me. So I said very honestly, you are much more senior, so if you've written something, I believe that there is some logic or some thought behind that, and that is why you have put it. She said, even then you tell me that this should not be here. She said, you are a fresher and I have been working here for more than 10 years. I have my standard way of doing this. Aisa kind of opinion I have made like thousands in my life, so I know exactly how to do it, what to do, what to write, what not to write, where to see, what has changed, everything I know. But because you are a fresher, you have come here with a fresh perspective, you will see with a fresh set of eyes, and hence there's a possibility that what I have been missing out is something that you will be able to figure out. तो अपने को पता चला अपना ऐसा कुछ वैल्यू है. देन फ्रॉम दैट डे ऑनवर्ड्स आई स्टार्टेड रीडिंग इट विथ इंटरेस्ट, सेइंग दैट ओके, does it make sense, not make sense, questioning, asking her why she's written something, so that I also learn in the process ना कि क्यों ऐसा लिखा है and why not the other way around. So that questioning started. So this independence and rotation is very very important practically, because when someone else is, दूसरों का गलती निकालने में मज़ा आता है, वो तो है ही, बट उसके अलावा also when you are seeing something with a fresh set of eyes. So today if I am doing certain procedures, I always remember my senior and I tell my juniors that you tell me a better way to do this process, because there's a possibility that I may have missed out because I've been doing it for years now. But you are new, so you may feel कि ऐसा नहीं, ऐसा करेंगे तो फटाक से हो जाएगा. So then I can change the process. So always important to have that rotation. And because in listed entities वो public money involved है and public interest involved है, listed entities के लिए it is mandatory to do that rotation. Are we understanding? Do we need a break? Are we sleepy? Okay, so what we'll do is we will first type so that we don't feel sleepy, and then we will move ahead. You can take a 1 minute break, leave some lines below this, and then give the heading ethical requirement. We will take a 2-minute break and then we get back. Okay. Yes. So first we'll write down ethical requirement. Below that we will write down integrity, the 5 points that are there: integrity, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. Under the same point of ethical requirement, write down independence, which is your founding requirement. So dash founding requirement. Then create two parts and write down communicate independence requirement, communicate independence requirement, and in the second part write down identify and evaluate circumstances, identified and evaluate circumstances that create threat to independence, that create threat to independence. Under independence, second bullet below write down breach to be notified, breach to be notified. Third, annually obtain written confirmation on independence, annually obtain written confirmation on independence from all firms, annually obtain written confirmation on independence from all firms. And last, with a different pen write down listed entities, listed entities dash engagement partner, engagement partner rotated after 7 years, engagement partner rotated after 7 years plus mandatory peer review of firms, engagement partner rotated after 7 years plus mandatory peer review of firms. Acceptance, continuation, leave some space below this particular point ethical requirement that we've written and just copy this down, okay, before we discuss, because we'll not get the time to write down this part. So just write this point down and then we discuss the entire point. This is not the full point, but just write this much down. Acceptance and continuance of client relationships and specific engagements, acceptance and continuance of client relationships and specific engagements. Under that, first is integrity of client, second is competence to perform engagement, competence to perform engagement, in bracket write down capability, time, resources, capability, comma, time, comma, resources, capability, time, resources, and third, write down compliance with ethical requirements, compliance with ethical requirements. Okay. Now here, acceptance and continuance of client relationships and specific engagement. So as a partner, as a firm, when I am accepting a client, what will I do is I will ensure that the client who I am accepting is a client. So I will do a thorough research on my client, correct? So when my partner came to know that the service tax is not there and he's collecting it, he's not depositing it, he's just doing it to earn money, that was a preliminary review, correct? We had not, like, we had entered into the engagement, we had signed the engagement letter, to be honest, but we had not started any work for them. In the initial phase only we realize that okay, this is what is there. So when I am accepting the client, it is my responsibility to ensure that I check that the client that I am accepting, what is the background, what is the industry, are there any pending litigations, what kind of litigations are pending. See, litigations are always going to be there for companies. So it is not that litigation hai to ho, I can't take the assignment. Litigations are always going to be there. But what kind of litigation is pending? If it is a normal income tax order where scrutiny assessment is done and that is why there is a litigation that's going on with ITAT and which is pending, technical basis they are arguing, then that is okay. That is what CAs are for, right? For arguing all of that. So that is fine. But what kind of litigation is going on is something which is relevant. If it is something where they have done something which is violating the legal scenario and that is why there is a litigation going on with them, or they are hoarding a lot of black money and that is why the litigation is going on with them, or they are collecting fake bills which is why there is a litigation going on. So what kind of litigation is going on is something that I have to see before I am accepting. What is the kind of client, whether there is a comfort with the client or not. Ideologies also should match ना. ऐसा है कि अच्छा ठीक है, गलत किया, पैसा खिला के कर दो, मेरे को पैसा नहीं खिलाने का है. Like a big four will never go and say कि अच्छा, you know, you take this money and you give a favorable order. Big four will never ever do that. So if the client is of the view that if something is not working out, आप पैसा दे दो and हो गया, then that is something that a big four is not going to accept, correct? But a mid-sized firm who is okay with such a thing, he may accept it. So you see your comfort with the client, your ideologies, whether they are matching, they're not matching, then you accept that particular assignment and then you say that okay, this is something which we are comfortable with. If you are not comfortable, you withdraw, or you say that okay, this is for XYZ reason, I am not comfortable with this. But you have to ensure that at all point of time your commercial consideration should not override the quality. Only because he is giving you more money, okay, let me take that chance, is something that is not allowed. That is not something which is quality control. Okay, so see what he is saying, that firm should consider the identity, business reputation of the client's principal owners, key management related parties and those charged with governance, the nature of client's operation including its business practices, information concerning attitude of the client's principal owners, key managerial person towards such matters as aggressive interpretation of accounting standards. Client is aggressively concerned with maintaining the firm's fee as low as possible. He's saying do everything but fees इतना ही होएगा, कम में करके दे दो, बाकी सब हम संभाल लेंगे, ऐसा कुछ बोला, then again it's a highlight. Okay, why is he doing that, correct? Then inappropriate limitation in scope of work, these are the things you should not be checking. This we will manage on our own. ऐसा कुछ बोल दिया, again something which should highlight. Client is involved in money laundering or criminal activities, and reason for the proposed appointment of the firm and non-reappointment of the previous firm. So if he is changing his CA, you understand why are you changing your CA, why are you not reappointing that particular person for this year, and why are you appointing. See, if it is a rotation, then it is very clear कि 10 साल हो गया, उसके बाद 5 साल कूलिंग ऑफ है, उसमें तेरे को अपॉइंट किया है. So that is not an explanation. But in that 10 years where the firm can be the auditor and he is not appointing that firm and he is telling that I want you to come and work, then figure out why they are not appointing. That reason is very, very important. This is about the client. So here I am talking everything about the client. So I will check कि client का क्या क्या information I have to consider. Correct? Second part, it is saying that the firm has the capability, competence, time and resources to do. Whether I have the necessary resources to do, to take up this assignment, and whether these resources are people who understand the business. So there are two things here. So when I was working with PwC, there was a team which shifted to KPMG. So between the big fours, if you know, वो teams change होता रहता है. People go from, so people normally say that if you are planning to work entire lifetime with the big four, then it is possible that during the lifetime of your career you will visit all the big fours. चार धाम बोलते हैं उसको. All four you will do. Correct? So you will be PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, EY, सब लोग सब कुछ करके ही आते हैं एक बार. Helps in increment also, promotions also, ऐसा. तो वो लोग सब घूम के आते हैं. So when I was working, if you've heard of Dinesh Kanabar, he's a very well-known person in the tax field. So he is someone under whom I used to work. He was the partner then, and I just joined CA as a fresher, PwC as a fresher, and he decided to shift to KPMG. Now he decided to shift to KPMG, and immediately all the big clients also decided to shift with him because he is Dinesh Kanabar. If you know, Dhruva Advisors is something that he is running now on his own. So because he decided कि जाने का है, तो clients also decided कि जाने का है. Then clients decided, so the senior managers, the directors, people who are below him, they also said that, sir, we will come with you. अपने को किसी ने पूछा, we are fresher, इज्जत इच नहीं, किसी ने पूछा ही नहीं. Then a lot of clients shifted to KPMG. Now when people shifted to KPMG, clients are shifting to KPMG, then to take up the work of clients and to do that work, there is already clients in KPMG which are there existing, no? So there are juniors there, but they are already assigned to some work. So now to do the work which is newly coming to KPMG, they need resources. तो अपना इज्जत बढ़ा, बिकॉज अपन क्या मजदूर, वो अपना फ्रेशर्स, असिस्टेंट मैनेजर्स, ये लोग का वैल्यू सडनली इंक्रीज्ड because they wanted resources to do all the मजूरी ना. Otherwise they senior managers, directors थोड़ी बैठ के opinion बनाने वाले. They are going to only get clients and they are going to review. Their performance is based on कितना client लाया, कितना पैसा कमाया firm ने. अपना क्या है, अपना opinion बनाने का, xerox लेने का, books में से research करने का, all of that is my work as a fresher to do. So our value increased. Why increased? Because resources they need. Without resources, how are they going to perform that engagement? So when I am accepting any engagement, I have to ensure that I have the necessary resources in who are capable enough to perform that particular engagement. If I have graduates who don't understand much about the thing because they have not done CA, so they don't understand law and all of that, then in that case I can't accept the assignment because I don't have the required resources. Secondly, it is important to understand the client's business, that particular industry. करेक्ट? तो तुम लोग जब भी CA फॉर्म देखता है तो तुम क्या देखता है कि ये CA फॉर्म है, इसके पास ज़्यादा बैंकिंग के क्लाइंट्स है, इसके पास ज़्यादा इंटरनल ऑडिट के, बिकॉज दैट इज़ द एक्सपर्टीज ऑफ दैट फॉर्म. करेक्ट? सो when I was into e-commerce industry, no one understands e-commerce. Okay, even the e-commerce people, I am sure they don't understand the accounting part, because uh, it has happened many a times that there are MBAs who are running the e-commerce industry. Abhi the scenario has changed, people are slightly understanding, but preliminary look also of how the e-commerce is functioning, there are a lot of things you can see that is going wrong in the e-commerce industry. Okay, I don't want to say what is going wrong, but there are a lot of things which I can just see and I know that okay, this is going wrong, and they're not rectifying it. So most of these e-commerce sector clients, what they were doing is they were hiring MBAs to manage their accounts and finance and all of that. MBAs have knowledge with all due respect, but they don't have legal regulatory requirement का जो knowledge होता है, they don't have that knowledge. So they don't understand that this is something that should be done. So they would call CAs and they will say that you work with us, and they were ready to pay very high salary. So during COVID, if I didn't want to take up a job there, but the salary, it was somewhere between 1 CR to 2 CR if you're ready to move to Delhi and all of that, and you will get that salary. But I didn't want to shift there, so I never kind of applied. But I had got calls saying that if you want to take up, because we are looking at CAs who have knowledge and who also have knowledge of e-commerce industry. This is after I left e-commerce and when I was into teaching. So here they are looking at people who have the relevant sector knowledge, plus they have the knowledge of the legal and regulatory requirements. If you like, when I was working with them also, we used to interact with a lot of CAs. A lot of CAs used to come to us saying कि काम दे दो, but जब उनको business समझाते हैं, saying that this is what we do, वो गोल गोल घूमते हैं. They don't really understand. See, I understood because I was there since incorporation. I set up the entire process and all of that. So when I joined, even I didn't understand what they were doing. Okay, but eventually I kind of understood that okay, this is how this is functioning, this is how this should be done. So when a new CA comes and as an auditor he wants to work, it's very difficult for them to work because they don't really understand कि कर क्या रहे ये लोग. It same thing happened with us with a GST officer also. A GST officer, he spent at least 5 to 6 months with me. He'll call me every single day. First he'll make me wait for like 2-3 hours at least, and then he will call me and then he will tell me, you explain what is your business. He could not understand the business and how to apply GST, where things are right, where things are wrong. He could not understand it. For 1.5 years, he could not close the assessment that he started, and then later he was jailed because someone sent, like किसी ने तो भेजा था कि वो bribe ले रहा है, तो someone took a video and gave it, so he went to jail for 6 months. I was very happy, but yeah, so even they don't understand, correct? So this quality control standard is saying that when you are accepting an assignment and you want to continue with that assignment, client को तो देखो कि client ideology match होता है, बराबर काम करता है, and they are not involved in anything that is wrong. But at the same time, internally you also see whether you are understanding that industry, not understanding industry. You have the necessary resources, you have the necessary infrastructure to cater to that client. If you don't have, then don't accept the client, because then it doesn't make sense. And that is why you see CA firms who are who have the expertise. So people who are dealing in Flipkart, Snapdeal, Amazon, they will all have that e-commerce clients only. If you're dealing with banks, तो banking के client होएगा, insurance रहेगा तो insurance का client होएगा, correct? तो वो वैसा होता है, not because मेरे को banking ही आता है इसके लिए. I know other things, but मेरे पास वो resources, वो infra नहीं है to have and accept that other clients from different sectors. It's best to have, but I will specialize and have expertise only in that one particular sector, correct? So that is why understanding internally whether my team, whether I have the resources, whether I have the knowledge, and then accepting that particular client is again very important. I can always hire experts available if needed. So you have your lawyers who are there who give their opinion, correct? You have Percy Padiwala and people like him who give their opinion, and they tell you that this is how it should be done, this is how you should this will avoid any tax issues, tax litigation. I had the opportunity to meet him only once, Percy Padiwala, and I was very very excited कि अच्छा I will meet Percy Padiwala. Like, he charges a bomb when you have to meet him. Even for 2-3 minutes you meet him, he'll send a big bill. So I was very excited, and I was a fresher, so I was not supposed to go meet Percy Padiwala. But my senior manager, my manager, they were both on leave, and that was the only date we were getting the appointment of Percy Padiwala. So when I went to him, all books, files, सब कुछ लेके गई थी कि okay. And my senior manager had called me in the morning, and he said, whatever he talks, you have to write it down. And just write it down, even if you understand, don't understand, just write it down and come, so that we will see what to do with it. If you don't understand, I'll explain. So I was like, okay. So I was all ready with pen, diary, all files I had taken, and all set. So I am sitting here. My partner Nitin Karve is sitting here. He is very knowledgeable. If you ever heard about him, if you're in Big Four, you will always know him. So he is very very senior. He's read the Bear Act some 6 times till I know. He must have read it 3-4 times more after I left. So very very senior and very knowledgeable. Okay, and he's sitting here. I'm sitting with my pen, and Percy Padiwala is there's a paper. He's took the paper. He's reading. Then he looks at Nitin Karve and he says, And Nitin Karve says, he smiles. And then they both got up and they're like, okay, chalo. I'm like, I don't have to write anything. He's like, no, come. Then I went back. My senior manager called and he's like, what did you write? I said, nothing. He's like, I told you no to write. I said, yeah, but what do I write? He went, he saw. Percy Padiwala said, And Nitin Karve is also smiling, So I said, what do I write? And then they said, the meeting is over, so you come back. He charged a very hefty amount for that less than 5 minutes that we spent with him. They both understood. We don't know what they understood. Then later on, of course, the partner explained that this is what he meant by And then I had to write down the opinion and all of that. But experts are there, and these are experts. They are very very knowledgeable. They specialize in that particular sector. So if you have any issues, you can always refer to the expert. But before that, you should have your own team who are capable enough to perform the engagement. If you don't have that, then in that case, experts are not going to be of any help. If there is any conflict of interest, then that should be properly resolved. And if there's conflict of interest and if you have to withdraw the engagement, then you have to withdraw the engagement. That is something which we have already discussed. Yes, when you are withdrawing the engagement, okay, this is the last part before we end, then you have to discuss the following things. So what is it saying? See, read here. It is saying that policies and procedures on withdrawal from an engagement or from both the engagement and client relationship address issues that include the following. So what are the issues? He is saying discuss the appropriate level of client's management and those charged with governance regarding appropriate action that the firm might take based on the relevant facts and circumstances. So we'll read all four. I'll tell you again. If the firm determines that it is appropriate to withdraw, discussing the same with the appropriate level of client's management and those charged with governance, giving them the reasons for withdrawal. You have to tell them why you are withdrawing. Considering whether there is a professional, regulatory or legal requirement for the firm to remain in place or for the firm to report the withdrawal or for both the engagement together with reasons for withdrawal to regulatory authorities. And last is document significant issues, consultation and conclusion and the basis for the conclusion. Okay, so here what he is saying is that first he is saying that I have to see that why I am withdrawing, what are my reasons, and whether the client can take any appropriate action. Okay, so in the service tax matter where he didn't have the service tax number, I was not ready to sign, then in that case I have to communicate to him that this is the reason I'm not comfortable signing something where there's no service tax income, service tax collected, no service tax registration, and you are just accepting the money and treating that as an income. That is something that I'm not okay with, because this is violating my legal regulatory requirements, and this is my reason. So I'm giving them the reason, I'm telling them why. When I can work for you, I can work for you only if you take the service tax number and you pay the service tax dues, then I can work for you. But if you're treating it as your income, I cannot work for you, I'm sorry. So I will tell them when I can work. If I'm withdrawing, what are my reasons for withdrawing, what are the legal regulatory requirements, is there a reason, if it is a reason for my withdrawal, then I should report the same to the regulatory authority. So ideally my partner then should have gone to the service tax department and should have told the service tax officer that this is what is happening and you need to take an action. So that is one of the points. And last is that whenever I am withdrawing, I have to document that what was the issue, what was discussed, and finally what was the conclusion. He said he is not ready to take a service tax number. I said I am not ready to sign without a service tax number, and hence I had to withdraw. Correct? So when I am withdrawing, first I have to tell him, if you do this, I am okay working for you, otherwise I can't. He says I am not okay taking service tax number. I tell him okay, I will withdraw, my reason being so and so. Third legal violation hai, I go to regulatory authorities and complain that okay, this is what is happening. As a CA, it is my responsibility to do that. And fourth is I will document everything that has happened so that it is there available, saying that why I have withdrawn. If ever asked, there is a reason and there is a proper paperwork that is there which is giving me the reasons as to why I have withdrawn. Documents, I think only big fours do. I have not seen small firms do documentation of withdrawal, to be very honest, but big fours do have a proper documentation where they list down why it has been rejected, and the same is also passed on in the form so that other partners don't accept the same assignment. Okay, so this is about your acceptance and continuation of client relationship. It is written in a lot more detail here. We will write it down in short tomorrow. And tomorrow before you come to class, please ensure that you read the textbook till here, whatever we have done, and see if you have any questions, any doubts, you've not understood anything, and which we can again do it tomorrow. And also go through the notes. So these notes are basically written in the shortest form possible, which will help you remember this and the main bullet points in order to write the answers. Okay, so writing part we will do for this particular part tomorrow, and that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you so much. Bye bye.